Okay, so let's dive into something I think we all know a little too well. Headaches. You
Yeah.
want to get a better grasp on these literal pains.
hmm
And you brought some material from Johns Hopkins Medicine to help us with that. It's fascinating. Everyone gets headaches, but
Right.
there's so much variety to them.
There's a ton.
Did you know some are even named after ice cream and stabbing?
Yeah, they are. It's wild.
We're going to unpack all of that and more
I'm
today. Me
excited.
too. So to kick things off, what's interesting is that even though we experience headaches,
Right.
the brain itself can't actually feel pain.
Yeah. It's like your brain is the king in a castle.
Okay, yeah.
He can't feel a thing directly, but his network of nerves, blood vessels, and muscles around the skull act as his messengers. They're like shouting, "Hey, something's wrong here."
So it's the brain security system, letting us know if there's trouble brewing. I like
Exactly.
that. That's a good analogy. So Johns Hopkins defines a headache simply as pain in the head or face.
Makes sense.
But as you said, there's tons of variation.
Oh,
The location, the intensity, how often they hit, it's all over the map.
yeah.
And then there's so many different types.
Right. Johns Hopkins mentions migraines, tension headaches, cluster headaches, even some less common ones with really intriguing names. But for most people, like just understanding the big three
Right.
migraines, tension, and cluster is a great starting point.
Okay, perfect. So let's start with migraines. I've heard they're more than just a headache. We're talking nausea, sensitivity to light, even weird like visual stuff.
Yeah.
What is going on there?
Migraines are definitely complex. Think of them as like a four-act play.
Okay.
Act one is the prodrome phase, where you might feel a bit off, maybe irritable or craving certain foods, even a day or two before the headache hits. Then there's the aura phase. About 25% of people experience this. This is where your senses kind of go haywire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it can be visual disturbances like seeing zigzag lines or flashing lights, but it could also involve tingling sensations or even difficulty speaking.
So auras are kind of like your brain just playing tricks on you before the main event.
Exactly. And then, of course, comes the headache itself. That's Act 3, which can be that throbbing, often one-sided pain that migraines are known for. The light sensitivity and nausea really kick in here,
Right.
and many people just feel completely drained. Finally, Act 4 is the resolution phase, where the pain slowly subsides, but unfortunately can leave you feeling wiped out for a while, like you really went through something.
Yeah, like you ran a marathon or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see why it feels like a whole ordeal, not just a simple headache.
Mm.
Okay, next up are tension headaches.
Okay.
I think most people know that feeling of like a tight band or vice squeezing your head.
Oh, it's incredibly common.
Oh, yeah.
Think about when you're stressed and you tense up your shoulders. That same tension can happen in your head and neck muscles, and that's like a classic tension headache brewing.
So it's almost like your body's way of saying, hey, chill out. And then there are cluster headaches. The Johns Hopkins material describes them as incredibly intense, one-sided pain, often centered like behind the eye. Plus, they can cause watery eyes and a runny nose, which seems so strange.
It is strange. Cluster headaches are a different beast altogether. It's not just a single headache, it's a cluster of them, happening over weeks or even months. And here's the kicker, they often strike at the same time each day, sometimes even waking you up at night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly disruptive. Now that we've covered these big three headache types, there's another important distinction to make. You mentioned headaches can be classified as either primary or secondary.
Right.
What's the difference?
So it's all about the root cause. The primary headache is the main problem, like those migraines, tension, and cluster headaches we just discussed.
Right.
They're not caused by another medical condition. Secondary headaches, on the other hand, are a symptom of something else going on in the body. Think of it this way. If you bang your head and get a headache, that's a secondary headache because the injury is the real issue.
So it's like a clue that something else needs attention.
Exactly.
But how does a doctor figure out like what kind of headache you're dealing with?
Well, it all starts with a bit of detective work. They'll ask you a lot of questions, like, when do your headaches happen? What triggers them? How long do they last? Where's the pain located? What does it feel like?
So they're piecing together the headache puzzle, looking for patterns and clues.
Exactly. And depending on what they suspect, they might suggest some tests. Sometimes it's as simple as a blood test or sinus x-ray. Other times it might be an MRI or CT scan if they need to rule out something serious.
Okay, let's say you've gone through that process and gotten a diagnosis. What happens next? What are the options for treatment?
That's where things get really personalized. The treatment completely depends on the type of headache and how bad it is. For some people, simple lifestyle changes can make a huge difference. Managing stress, getting enough sleep, avoiding trigger foods.
Those sound like good habits for everyone, not just headache sufferers.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But for some people, medication might be necessary. There are different types, too. Some are designed to stop a headache in its tracks. Those are called abortive medications.
Okay.
Others are taken daily to prevent them in the first place. Those are preventive medications. And of course, we can't forget about trusty over-the-counter pain relievers, which are considered rescue medications.
So finding the right treatment is all about figuring out what works best for your specific type of headache.
Precisely. It might take some trial and error to find the perfect combination of lifestyle changes and medication,
Right.
but it's worth it to get those headaches under control.
Now, before we move on, I want to make sure we talk about those red flags,
Mm.
the signs that a headache might be something more serious and needs immediate medical attention.
Oh, right.
Johns Hopkins mentions a sudden, severe headache that feels different from anything you've experienced before,
Yeah.
sometimes described as the worst headache of my life, as a major warning sign. What else should people be on the lookout for?
That's a crucial point. Another big red flag is a headache that comes with any neurological symptoms. Things like vision changes, numbness or tingling, or difficulty speaking. That could indicate a problem with the brain or nervous system and needs to be checked out right away.
So it's not just about the pain itself, but also any other unusual symptoms that accompany it?
Exactly. It's always better to err on the side of caution when it comes to headaches.
Welcome back. So we've tackled the heavy hitters of the headache world: migraines, tension, and cluster headaches.
Right.
Now let's explore some of those more obscure types.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about headaches named after things like ice cream.
Yeah.
What's the deal with those?
Well, they may sound a little silly, but ice cream headaches, also known as brain freeze,
Right.
can be surprisingly intense.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
That sudden stabbing pain in the forehead after downing a cold drink too fast. Ouch.
Exactly. The current thinking is that it's caused by the blood vessels in the roof of your mouth
Okay.
rapidly constricting from the cold.
Oh, wow.
It's like they're saying, whoa, too cold, too fast.
Yeah.
The good news is they're usually pretty short-lived.
Thankfully. Okay, what about stabbing headaches? That sounds way more menacing.
They can be alarming for sure. Stabbing headaches are these quick bursts of intense pain, often described as feeling like an ice pick in the head.
Oh, yikes. Any idea what causes them?
Sometimes they seem to appear out of nowhere, but sometimes they're associated with other headache conditions like migraines.
Oh, okay.
It's almost like a bonus headache on top of the one you're already dealing with.
Double the fun, not.
Right.
So someone could be having a migraine and then experience a stabbing headache at the same time.
It's possible, unfortunately. It's one of the many reasons why keeping a headache diary can be so helpful. By tracking things like when your headaches occur, what they feel like, and any possible triggers,
Right.
you can start to spot patterns that can help you and your doctor figure out the best course of action.
It's like being your own headache detective.
Speaking of detective work, Johns Hopkins also mentions occipital neuralgia. That sounds like it's in the back of the head.
You got it. The occipital nerves run from the top of your spinal cord up the back of your head.
Right.
If those nerves get irritated or inflamed, it can cause a sharp shooting pain that starts at the base of the skull and travels up.
I imagine that could easily be mistaken for a tension headache or even a migraine.
It definitely could. That's why it's so important to see a doctor to get a proper diagnosis if you're having any kind of recurring headaches.
Okay, last one on our list is a low CSF headache. What in the world does that mean?
CSF stands for cerebrospinal fluid.
Okay.
It basically cushions and nourishes your brain and spinal cord.
Okay, yeah.
Sometimes a leak in the membrane that holds this fluid can cause headaches, especially when you're standing upright.
So the headache is worse when you're standing and gets better when you lie down.
That's a telltale sign of a low CSF headache. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about headache triggers. These are things that can provoke or worsen a headache, and they can vary quite a bit from person to person.
That's true. What might trigger a headache for me might not bother you at all.
Exactly. But there are some usual suspects.
Right.
Stress is a big one.
Yeah.
Think about it. When we're stressed, we tend to tense up, including those muscles in our head and neck,
Right,
which
yeah.
can lead to those tension headaches we talked about earlier.
So relaxing and managing stress can go a long way in preventing headaches.
Absolutely. Another common trigger is lack of sleep. When you're sleep deprived, your body releases certain hormones that can actually make you more sensitive to pain.
So getting enough sleep is key, both for overall health and headache prevention.
Yes.
What else should we be mindful of?
Certain foods and drinks are known headache triggers for many people. Things like aged cheese, processed meats, red wine, and caffeine. Dehydration can also play a role, as can changes in the weather or altitude.
So basically anything that throws our body out of whack can potentially trigger a headache.
You've got it. That's why it's important to pay attention to your body and try to identify your personal triggers. That headache diary we talked about earlier can be incredibly helpful for that.
Right. It's all about being proactive and taking charge of your headache health.
Exactly.
We've covered so much ground in this episode. We learned about those lesser-known headache types, and we talked about triggers and the importance of keeping a headache diary.
Understanding all of this can really empower you to take control of your headaches rather than letting them control you.
Exactly. Now, in our final segment, we'll explore the connections between headaches and our overall health. What to do if a headache might be a sign of something more serious. Stay tuned. All right, we're back for the final part of our headache deep dive.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Everything from migraine phases to ice cream headaches.
Right.
But now let's zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture. How are headaches connected to our overall health?
That's a great question. While most headaches are, nothing to worry about,
Right.
they can sometimes be a sign that something else is going on in the body. It's like a check engine light flashing on your dashboard.
So it's about recognizing when a headache might be more than just a headache.
Exactly.
We've already talked about some red flags, that sudden, intense, worst headache of my life feeling,
Right.
and any neurological symptoms like vision changes or numbness. What else should we be paying attention to?
Keep an eye out for any changes in your usual headache patterns.
Okay.
If you suddenly start getting them more often, if they become more intense, or if the type of pain changes, those are all signs that it's time to chat with your doctor.
So even if you're someone who tends to get headaches frequently,
Right.
a shift in the pattern could be a clue that something's up.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. What about the connection between headaches and brain health in general?
Well, just like the rest of our body, our brains need TLC to stay healthy.
Right.
Things like getting enough sleep, managing stress, eating a balanced diet, and exercising regularly are all beneficial for brain health,
Okay.
and that can translate to fewer headaches.
Those are all great habits to adopt anyway. Any specific tips for headache prevention beyond, those healthy lifestyle choices?
Staying hydrated is a big one.
Yeah.
Dehydration can definitely trigger headaches.
Right.
And as we talked about before, if you know you have specific triggers like certain foods, drinks, or even sensory overload, try to avoid those as much as possible.
It's like taking a proactive approach to managing those headaches.
Exactly.
So what's the biggest takeaway you want our listener to walk away with today?
I think headaches are incredibly common, but they shouldn't be ignored.
Right.
By understanding the different types, recognizing the warning signs, and making healthy choices for your brain, you can really take control of your headache experience. And of course, don't hesitate to reach out to your doctor if you have any concerns.
That's great advice. It's been a fascinating deep dive into the world of headaches. We've explored everything from migraine phases to headache triggers and those important red flags. We hope you found this journey insightful and empowering. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.